Please let this door be open. If you have any respect for the type of challenge that I'm doing right now in your video game, you will let this door be open when I get to it. You are the ones who made it possible to refuse Melina's help, okay? I defended from software. Short King traveled far and bested many foes, but the sight he now beheld filled him with woe. It mattered not how hard he had fought, for it seemed all his efforts were for naught. His journey had ended once and for all, thoroughly trounced by this stupid light wall. But such an outcome left him soured. He refused to give up, and so he scoured. Surely this puzzle too had a solution. No rest can be had without resolution. Welcome back to part 2 of the Maidenless All Great Runes Challenge. If you haven't seen the first part, be sure to check it out. At the end of that video, we encountered a barrier that has slaughtered countless Maidenless runs already, and it looked as though mine was going to be the next victim. The reason? Miyazaki made the executive decision that if you want to play their game, you will talk to a woman. Obviously, this was much to the dismay of many gamers. The barrier in question was supposed to open when you defeat Morgoth, but for some reason, there's an extra check in place to see if you've gone to the Round Table Hold. If you haven't, then tough shit. At present, we're blocked off from the Lift of Roll. The lift is important because it lets us access the 2 remaining bosses, Melina, Blade of Mikola, and Mohg, Lord of Blood, both of whom hold the last 2 great runes we need to complete the run. After coming so far, I wasn't ready to give up here until I had exhausted every last option. If the laws of this world prevented my progress, then I would simply bend the laws to my will. I didn't want to do this, but FromSoft has forced my hand. Sometimes, to mend one Elden Ring, you have to break another. So I began searching for workarounds, exploits, glitches, anything that would get me around this progression block. But everywhere I looked, I only saw people complaining about how the seal made their Maidenless run impossible. The closest thing I found was something called the Pegasus glitch, but as the name implies, it requires Torrent, who is given to you by her. If there was any method of getting past this, I was going to have to find it myself. That's when I realized. Leyndell and the Lift of Roll are connected by a small stretch of land called the Forbidden Lands, and the Forbidden Lands were loaded in the overworld and visible off in the distance from a place just outside of Leyndell, the capital Ramparts. It stands to reason that if it were visible, we'd theoretically be able to access the Lift of Roll if only we could get there somehow. And this is when I remembered seeing a speedrun of Elden Ring where a player used a glitch to skip over large chunks of land and even some bosses. But rather than talking about that now, I think I'll just show you. I call this one the Meat Zip. This is kind of fun to me. It's like the... That it? That's it! Oh my fucking god! No way! I hit this tiny ass crevice in the rock. I think any other place would have killed me from fall damage. I suppose I have some explaining to do, huh? So how the hell did I get to the Forbidden Lands? Well, rest assured, I didn't use any sort of external cheats. This is something that can be done by any player in Elden Ring. It's called the zip glitch, and it requires only a couple inputs with precise timing to pull off. I don't know the specific details of how it works, but it seems to be hardware dependent and was patched as of version 1.03. I mentioned in my previous video that I downgraded my game to an earlier version, and this was another reason for that. I also said that the answer to the question, can you collect all great runes maidenless, was a bit complicated, and this is why. As far as I know at the time of making this, there isn't a way to get around this barrier maidenless on a current patch. So for now, the Meat Zip is all we have. If you do want to contribute to finding a better solution that works for more people, tell me what you find in the comments or join the Discord server. Link in the description. Actually, just join the Discord server anyways. Now that we've settled the matter of getting to the Forbidden Lands and managed to get to the Lift of Roll, now what? It's still impossible to take the lift up without the medallion from Melina, so I guess that's it. GG, runs over, thanks for watching. Okay, obviously not. There's actually another glitch we can use to bypass the lift. The Wrong Warp. I won't go into too much detail, but if you use this item to return to a point of grace and try to fast travel at about the same time, the game will warp you to the wrong location. From here, you quit out of the game, and when you load back in, you'll spawn at the default spawn location for whatever area you warped from. As luck would have it, the default spawn location for the Lift of Rold is at the top of the lift. Yo. Maidenless, I have come to the mountaintop of the giants. No rolled medallion, no bitches, $15 in my pocket. So yeah, we made it to the mountaintop of the giants, and at this point, the game fully expects you to either have the Frenzied Flame or Melina, which means there's definitely no Easter egg for accomplishing this, but I was still curious as to how some of the story-related events would play out given our specific set of circumstances. And I can say with confidence, my curiosity was sated by the end of this run. From here, I backtracked to complete Yura's questline. Who's Yura, you ask? You're a bitch. In all seriousness, we unlock a very necessary item after completing his questline, the Purifying Crystal Tear. After that, we continue our trek through the mountaintop of the giants, eventually arriving at Castle Sol. We'd need to grab half of a Haligtree medallion here to access a mandatory boss later, but Commander Nile stood in the way of that medallion piece. This fight took longer than it should have. I went into the fight with a seemingly decent strategy. I used a Bewitching Branch on some of his summons to make them fight for me, but I lost a couple times, ran out of branches, and suddenly I was left with only one option. Get good. So, over the course of many attempts, I learned his attacks, got better at zoning out his summons with Hoarfrost Stomp, and finally, I win, right? Loser. A win is a win, and we absolutely take those. With the other half of the Haligtree medallion we obtained from some old dude cosplaying as a pot, we head back to the Lift of Rold and hoist the shit out of that medallion. This brings us to a secret area called Northern Canada. After what felt like an eternity of wandering the frozen wastes, we finally happened upon a portal to the Mohgwyn Palace, and it's guarded by an NPC called the Sanguine Noble. And then I had to walk all the way back there again. Then again, until finally I beat him and gained the right to access some cave. After stealthing my way through some puddles of red excrement and narrowly escaping... Oh my god! Oh my god! It didn't take long to... I'm so fucking depressed. It didn't take long to get to the last point of grace in the Mohgwyn Palace, but the idea of entering the palace and confronting Mohg gave Cold King... The idea of entering the palace and confronting Mohg gave Cold... Fuck, why can't I get this fucking right? God. But the idea of entering the palace and confronting Mohg gave Short King cold feet. He wasn't ready to face him just yet. At least, not until he upgraded his hatchet a bit more. To upgrade the hatchet to max, we'd have to go all the way to the Forge of the Giants, at the highest point of the mountaintop. And there, right before the forge, stood the Fire Giant, an indomitable titan with an insane amount of health, the antithesis of everything Short King stood for. This was bound to be our greatest battle yet. At this point, I wasn't sure what to expect. Normally, you'd get to this point in the game and either sacrifice Melina or inherit the Frenzied Flame and sacrifice yourself. As much as I would love to see her get thrown into a burning pit, having Melina show up now would totally invalidate this run. Since I had used quite a few glitches to get here, there was no way FromSoft had ever accounted for a situation like this, right? So I sat down at the Grace on the edge of the forge and... nothing. There's supposed to be a cutscene where the player's transported to Thera Mazula after, except since Melina is absent, we have nobody to yeet into this oversized soup bowl. The only other alternative would be to meet the Three Fingers and inherit the Frenzied Flame, but this was unfortunately not going to happen either, since the path to the Three Fingers is blocked by a familiar seal that just says, "Sealed by Morgaunt the Gracegiven." This check at the Giant's Forge was interesting to me. Why did they feel the need to have an additional check for whether Melina is with you, if it was already supposed to be impossible to get here? It almost felt redundant. Regardless, my hand was forced once again. I tried to play nice, but FromSoft really doesn't want me playing this game maidenless. I had one last trick up my sleeve that I was saving as a last resort, the Farum Azula Wrong Warp. Using a warp gate at the 4 belfries, we're able to teleport to a preview area of the Farum Azula and pull off another Wrong Warp. This puts us in the default spawn location for that area, which is where we'd normally be taken after the Giant's Forge cutscene. I made a mad dash through the whole area, barely avoiding all the enemies and arriving at the Godskin duo boss fight, who I managed to beat in just 3 tries. Not that my opinion matters to anyone, but this is my pick for the worst fight in the entire game. It's like they took the popularity of Ornstein and Smoke from Dark Souls and went, "I guess our player base really likes getting ganked, huh?" So they copy and pasted 2 separate existing bosses and just called them a duo. With the god skinheads out of the way, I dashed through a section that would give any ornithophobe a heart attack. Behind an unusually weak and lazy dragon lay the ultimate treasure, a smithing stone that could grant our puny little hatchet the power to slay even a god. Now there was nothing left to do but take on the most excruciatingly difficult fight yet. Mohg, Lord of Bloods himself. So, just how poorly did this fight go?
I doubt you could even imagine it.
This fight was like nothing I've ever done in a video game. Having died a lot to Mohg on my first playthrough, I was already familiar with most of his attack patterns, and yet I don't even have the energy to go through a death montage for this one. This fight took me 5 hours. I persisted for 5 hours straight, and finally, I managed to finish him off.
I win. I fucking win. I learned nothing. Wait, no, he's monologuing? I died.
Yup, that one didn't count. For most people, this would have been an absolutely devastating defeat, but at this point, I was completely detached from any and all worldly emotions and took it in stride. I'm glad I did, because it wasn't much longer until I had another attempt that went really well.
Oh my god, please. Yes! Oh, thank god! Oh, dude. For those last strings of attacks. My fucking heart. Mohg win? More like Mohg lose? Ah, ha, ha, ha. Easy.
I swear it took a good minute for the heart palpitations to stop after this. If that fight had gone on any longer, I might have genuinely died of a heart attack in real life. Which would suck because then I wouldn't be able to finish this run. Despite taking forever, I didn't mind doing this fight. Also, shout out to a guy named NihilX3 who joined my chat. This absolute Sigma Mohg enjoyer came into my stream, gave me a few tips, watched for 5+ hours of blundered attempts, said congrats when I won, dropped a follow, left, and refused to elaborate further. He was probably off to help the next streamer stuck on Mohg. Godspeed, hero. With Mohg Bomba down, we had 6 out of 7 Great Runes in our pocket. With only 1 remaining, this challenge was as good as finished.
You will witness true horror.
I'm still not exactly sure what a Haligtree even is, I just knew that if I wanted all the Great Runes, I'd need to go there. So I traversed the desecrated snowfield until I came across this shithole. This puzzle is a miserable experience, but I'll sum it up in a few quick words. Get knifed, dumbass. Haha, arrow go brrr. After my balls were thoroughly wrung dry, I was granted passage to the Haligtree where didn't take long before I reached Loretta, Knight of the Haligtree, and I gotta say I remember this boss giving me a lot more trouble on my first playthrough. I beat her second try.
Oh! Bruh. I'm cracked out of my goddamn mind.
Upon defeating Loretto, we're granted access to Elphael, one of my favorite locations in the game. The amount of time I've spent invading here and constantly repositioning is so ingrained into my memory that I could navigate my way through this place 100 unique ways. After making it to the interior of Elphael, we use Quick Step to blast our way through the River of Crimson Aids, make our way into the church, die again, then finally take the elevator down all the way to the roots of the Halictree. Standing just before the fog wall, knowing full well what awaited me on the other side, and knowing I'd have to tackle it alone at level 1, filled me with a sense of dread I haven't felt in a while.
I'm gonna make you squirt, boogerhead.
For this next boss alone, I wanted to prepare an entirely different build. I wanted to power stance a pair of Bleed and Frost katanas and equip them with Bloodhound Step. Either that, or I could run a buckler and become a parry god. Unfortunately, I was permanently locked out of ever obtaining the buckler, since the merchant that sells it was never going to sell me another item again. And secondly, upgrading a new set of weapons would have been a miserable slog. Without access to the round table, there's no real way to get infinite upgrade stones without grinding for random drops. This would take as long, if not longer, than just brute forcing the boss with my current set. So, with the options available to me, I grabbed a set of Bloodhound Claws, took up my rusty hatchet, and went in. Believe me, I would have liked to fight Melina in a way that is more impressive to watch, but at the time of recording this, there exists a video of someone killing her at level 1 without bleed, freeze, parrying, or dodging. Entirely melee. The bar is so unreasonably high for skill kills of Melina that nothing I can do here would impress anyone. So this fight may not be a jaw-dropping spectacle, but it is mine.
Heed my words. I am Melina, Blade of Mikola.
Nice to meet you. Now's as good a time as any to mention that I have a thing for redheads. As you can imagine, I died to Melina. A lot. Now at this point, I could feed you some melodramatic story about how I died so many times and I was just about to give up when finally I clutched out the perfect run or whatever, but instead I'll get to the point. It didn't take quite as long as Moog, but it took a while. Instead of a death montage, here is... What the fuck? What was I thinking when I wrote this script? What? Okay, in the script I said that I would sync up every single one of my Melania deaths and play them simultaneously. There's like at least 400 deaths. I'm not gonna fucking do that. Who even... Oh my god. Eventually, I got really good at dodging her funny anime slash move, and eventually, through sheer determination, I was able to get the win. Oh no. Again! I dodged the wrong way. Holy fuck. I am going to come so fuck. So that's it. All 7 great runes acquired. Though it had been a brutal journey for Short King, in the end he managed to show each of Elden Ring's demigods the might of perpetual virginity. Thank you for watching. Oh wait, I still have to finish the game? Sure, no problem. That'll be easy. Radagon and the Elden Beast still remained, blocking my path to the throne. Oh, I guess Horalu was there too, but he took like 5 tries. Once I realized I could just run away from him whenever he started attacking, it was incredibly easy. But the final boss, by God, never again. Not long before starting this run, I watched Iron Pineapple's level 1 playthrough. When he got to the end of the game, he gave up on beating the Elden Beast solo and summoned a friend. At the time, I thought this was bitch behavior. He was already cheesing the first boss, so how hard could it even be? I had no idea. I started off fighting Radagon fair and square. After all, I had a lot of practice fighting him from previous playthroughs, so I figured he wouldn't be too much of a challenge. After some time, I looked at how long I'd been playing for and realized I had played for over 2.5 hours and only seen the Elden Beast 3 times. I am about to break into tears. That is not a joke. That isn't me being like, oh, haha, that's... Be right back. I gotta use the bathroom. I knew something had to change, so I looked to the internet for guidance and found just the cheese I needed. If you run directly up to Radagon at the start of the fight, you'll enter his blind spot, and he'll completely forget object permanence. From here, it's safe to pump him full of poison arrows. Since his pain receptors are completely numb, he won't even notice he's being killed unless you stagger him. Now, it's safe to just wait out the timer on his life. On average, it took about 5 to 6 minutes to kill Radagon this way, which was a vast improvement from my previous average of about 50 minutes. To be perfectly clear, I am absolutely not above using cheese tactics to win fights. And the fact that I gave most of the bosses up till now a fair fight is purely coincidence. The problem with this, it was boring as shit. Since I was streaming, I needed some distraction from the brain-numbing monotony unfolding on screen, so I pulled up a fresh YouTube account, checked the front page, and ended up watching cat videos while John Elden Ring slowly perished in the background. This is a Vanoss gaming video. This kind of reminds me of Squid Game. Then, after he died, I would challenge the Elden Beast, die to that stupid fucking orb attack he does at half health, and repeat. Over, and over, and over. I'd gotten lucky enough to dodge the orb a couple of times, but I genuinely have no idea how to consistently avoid it. I had the best luck trying to Bloodhound step around it when it got too close, but then I would get clipped by another one of his attacks and die anyways. I couldn't even see him doing the fucking move. Oh. As you can probably tell, I was not having a good time, and this fight was really starting to wear me down mentally. Wait, where's my Elden Beast cheese video?
I'll get hit a couple of times, but again, it's all about learning the boss attacks.
You'll get hit a couple of times, you say. Motherfucker, I can't afford that shit! A couple of times. These fucking 1%ers talking like they understand the working class. It makes me fucking sick. At this point it was 3 AM and I'd been streaming this fight for just over 9 hours. To make it worse, my internal monologue kept telling me, "This is good enough. You've already collected all the great runes, there's nothing left to prove. Just give up on this fight and make the video already." And I really wanted to listen to that voice. They were probably correct, even. But giving up here just didn't sit right with me. If I didn't finish this out properly, it would haunt me. More than that, though, I owed it to Short King, and to anyone watching this video, to give a satisfying conclusion. So, take this last poem as a final hurrah to the most emotionally draining video game experience of my life. Wait, what the fuck? Do you hear that? Was that some kind of beat or something? Why is it getting louder? What the fuck? In the hollow depths of the great Erd tree, there Radagon stood all casually. Brought to his knees by a dev oversight, the Elden Beast served as the real fight. He fled constantly, preventing approach to a god. Short King was merely a roach, but no matter how he was squashed, Short King returned to slay this god dwelling in the Erd tree he burned. Though he suffered cheap deaths with nothing to show, if he planned to give up he would have long ago. Then through the chaos he found a solution and brought down his axe of retribution. Mr. Beast had been felled with this final motion. Now Short King was overcome with emotion. Maidens alone do not determine man's worth, so curse not the circumstances of your birth. If you have a dream, then go make it yours. Even a Short King can be an Elden Lord. I imagine this must be what a father feels like watching his son graduate. As the credits rolled, I figured that was it, the conclusion to everything. However, the game had one final surprise for me. It asked if I wanted to start New Game Plus. I selected no and was about to turn off the game and roll into bed, but before I could do that, I was greeted with a reward that could not have felt more cathartic for completing this run. Welcome to the Round Table Hold. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. This is a different kind of video than I'm used to making, but I plan on doing more like it in the future. However, if you're expecting more Elden Ring content, I can't in good faith recommend subscribing since I'm pretty burnt out on this game and would rather do literally anything else. I want to upload challenge playthroughs of other games that are fun to challenge run, like Minecraft, Risk of Rain, Pokemon, Monster Hunter, basically any game I think I'm good enough at. I'm aware there's probably not a lot of overlap between fans of those games, but hopefully you'll stick around anyways if for nothing more than the self-inflicted suffering. Once again, thanks for watching. See ya!